my 12-year-old has a rare disease called HIRSH-sproongz. Very hard to say, even harder to spell. Um, and it's so rare. It is 1 in 5,000 live births. And the way it is worded that way is because it's fatal if it's not treated. And it's most people don't know what it is, so it often goes untreated. He's really not holding anything down. Every time I feed him, he's vomiting. And she blew me off and said, "Spit up is not vomit." And I was like, "Okay, it's not my first baby. I know the difference between spit up and vomit. Thanks for the vote of confidence." And I was like, literally every single time I feed him, I can't get in more than a half an ounce before he's vomiting. She rips him from me and says, "Let me show you how to do this." And she feeds him. She gets about a half an ounce in and he vomits on her. And she goes, "Oh, well, this isn't good." I was like, "Well, that's kind of what I was telling you." He starts sleeping more and more and more. It was my father's birthday. We went over for cake. I'm like frantic at this point because I'm like, I don't like this. He's lethargic. I can't wake him up. I'm force feeding him while he's sleeping. He's vomiting. And I'm like, what is going on? So I'm now panicking. It's like the middle of the night, and I call one of my friends from high school. Actually, she's from elementary school, who I knew was a NICU nurse over at a nearby hospital, not the one that we went to, but a nearby one. And she goes, "Honestly, if it were me, I would go back to the emergency room." She's like, "How many times have you done this surgery? What is the benefit of doing this surgery versus this surgery?" I said, "Because and I know that in CHOP they will do the straight pull through." And then, as doctors sometimes do, his first instinct was to be kind of offended that I was asking these questions. And he's like, "If you want to go to CHOP, you can go to CHOP." I was like, "Slow down. I didn't say I want to go to CHOP. I'm asking, is this something that you do all the time? Is this a surgery you perform often on my not yet a month old baby? And what is the benefit of doing the way that you prefer to do it versus doing one surgery? So why should I choose two surgeries for an infant over one?" And then that morning it was like I said, like an episode of Grey's Anatomy. Interns are coming in from here, right and left. I have to sign away my life basically. Yes, you can watch. Yes, you can watch. And like here I am like, why are all these people going to be in here? And you're like, well, isn't this distracting? Is this taking away from my child's surgery? But at the same time, here I am, a new parent of a rare disease and a product of a failed system where they failed him for almost a month. And I didn't even know what I was fighting for. And luckily, this surgeon fought for him as well. And more people need to know what this is. These kids, these young surgeons, these young interns had never even heard this word, had never even heard this word. And now they're operating or watching an operation on a 3.5 week old. So your intestines essentially develop when around like 8 weeks gestation, 8 to like 12 weeks gestation. The nerve cells start at your mouth, go all the way through intestine, and end at your bottom. And for whatever reason, there is no explanation. It's a complete spontaneous mutation. The ganglion cells just stop developing and they are not there. So without those, your intestines are constantly doing this and it's like a wave and they're constantly pushing everything through. And that's how we digest. It's how everything flows. That's how everything exits
Mhm.
once it enters. With these kids, it's like flow, 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 just limp noodles. And they expand, 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 expand. And oftentimes what happens is they will burst and these kids end up septic or
Yeah.
even worse, they do not survive it. You know, when you sever a body part or an organ, when you reconnect, it's kind of the same, but it's never really the same. So it doesn't always work. Those muscles that tell us, like, they send a signal to our brain and we're like, oh, got to go to the bathroom. He doesn't
Mhm.
have those. Those are gone. So he has to learn new ways to do it. And that's kind of hard to explain to a 3-year-old, especially when you're at like potty training time. And, now next thing you know, you have a 5-year-old who's still in pull-ups because there is no time to go and
Mhm.
there is like literally a leaky faucet all day long. And kids are mean. I came out of that appointment in tears. And I could hear one of the nurses going, "Okay, guys, mom is crying, so be gentle, set up the appointment," you know, and I can hear them, so, like, "Be gentle," like, maybe whisper next time. But I'm like, "No, no, no, it's okay, it's happy tears." And they're like, "Okay," looking at me like I'm crazy, like, "You're here for a rare disease and you're happy crying on your way to your next appointment." And I'm like, "You don't understand." I said, "We've been through so many doctors, so many things, and every single time I go for any kind of test, I have to explain to them what they're supposed to be doing. I have to explain to the technician why we're here, what he has, what we're doing, what you were supposed to be looking for. And this is the first time I've ever come here or anywhere, and you explained it to me instead." And I'm like, instantly, this weight is off of your shoulders because you have to fight so hard all the time. And I'm just like, holy crap. I can finally relax. We are in good hands. We're going to get somewhere. Process. I just literally got his phone number from a support group and called it. And a nurse answers the phone and she's like, "Hey, how can I help you?" And I said, "My son has Hirschsprung's and the hospital that we're at is great, but I feel like we need more. We're still having issues and we don't know where else to go." "Okay, no problem. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to send you all this paperwork. You're going to fill it out. You're going to get every single file on your child since the day he was born, every blood work, every x ray, every barium enema, every procedure, all of it." So I spent 2 weeks gathering all of that. Our surgeon from when he was born was amazing at that. I always got a physical copy of those surgeries and his reports, so I didn't even have to, like, go digging for those. The only thing I had to go digging for was, like, blood work and x-rays and stuff.
Mhm.
So I send all of this, and then what happens is they present every Tuesday, they have a meeting with their whole team, and they present cases and rank them in order of necessity and, "Can this be dealt with somewhere else? We need to take the top priorities."
And
It's kind of crazy that I had to drive all the way to Washington, DC to see a doctor that knew what he was talking about, you know? So these kids, they're being very underserved by doctors not knowing about these rare diseases, getting 1, 2 lines in a medical book, and then, "Here you go. Here's your diploma. You've got a doctorate. Go practice medicine."
Mhm. It's a
He's
lot.
doing amazing right now. Um, this last surgery has given him so much independence. So much independence. He can do his flush by himself. He knows how much saline, he knows how much glycerin, he knows how to mix it, he knows how to connect all of his tubes, and he just sits there and does it himself like he's the man.
Yeah.
And sometimes he just wants mom and dad and he just wants to know that you're like still going to help him and still sit there with him so but quality of life has improved exponentially. To have a kid walk around that essentially was walking around as a leaky faucet for almost 11 years. Walk around confident that, like, I'm not the smelly kid in class anymore. It's funny to say quality of life because it's not something that you generally associate with, like, going to the bathroom,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
But when people ask me how he is and how everything with DC went and, is he doing well? And I'm like, that's the first thing I say is his quality of life has exponentially improved. And then, people look at you like quality of life. I had no idea it was that drastic. Like, but you should know.
You
You
should.
should know because 11-year-olds don't like travel out of state to have major surgeries because their day is fine.
Mhm.
And I sit in these support groups and, these new moms coming in and they're in the same spot that I was 12 years ago, frantic. What do I ask? We don't even have a diagnosis yet. What do I do? I've never even heard this word before. And, you know, because it's rare and because, you know, there's not enough information out there, these support groups form. And they really are kind of a lifesaver in themselves, because without these moms, I wouldn't have known what to ask. I wouldn't have known where to go. I wouldn't have known about Dr. Levitt. He was little, but he knew that something was wrong. He knew
Mhm.
he had a baby brother, but and he also knew he wasn't home.
Mhm.
So we decided pretty early on that we were going to be open and honest, because at the end of the day, I felt like if we are private to a fault, really, this kid is always going to think he did something wrong or that he needs to hide. And he didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with him per se.
Right.
He got the shit end of the stick as far as a random mutation that he had nothing to do with. There's no, oh, I was on this medication at this trimester and it caused this. There is no rhyme or reason. It's just spontaneous with it. I know that, like, it needs to be out there, it needs to be talked about, because if it's not, then the next kid gets looked over, you know? If I didn't let all of those interns in on that surgery, what happens 5 years down the road when they walking down the hallway and they hear a nurse say something about, "Oh, baby in room 5203 hasn't stooled in 48 hours, and there's no bowel sounds," and they're going, "Hey, wait a minute, can I see that chart?" If it helped one more kid, then I don't care if there's 20 of you in there. I don't.